It's Thursday, and joining us is Denis Campbell, editor-in-chief of UK Progressive magazine. Denis's first appearance on the show, he said that if Newt Gingrich ended up being the Republican nominee, he saw a path for President Obama to win re-election with as many as 500 or more electoral votes. Now we know Gingrich is not going to be the nominee. It's going to be Mitt Romney. So I think it makes sense to follow up on these electoral vote possibilities. Denis, where do we start with this?
Well, you've got a number of issues out here. First, the thing I want to make perfectly clear in the course of this is that between now, the 1st of May, and the 31st of October, there are 4,616 hours of cable television to be filled. And today, the 17th of May, we still have 3,996 hours to go. Really, it's a matter of perspective, but I still see a path for at least 365, which is what he had last time, to well over 400 electoral votes for the president this time around. If you saw anything about the speech yesterday from Joe Biden, there's a really huge empathy gap with Mitt Romney. He's not able to connect with the average citizen the way in which Joe Biden was. And if you look at the way the Hispanic population has grown, the continuing war on women, with which I'm writing a second book on, and the whole issue around people of color, and the general way in which Republicans have mishandled themselves on issues such as budget, fairness, saying that it's all about jobs, jobs, jobs. Yet if you look at what's happening even just yesterday in the District of Columbia, they wouldn't let Eleanor Holmes Norton speak on an issue about abortion in her own district, the District of Columbia. So the pathway for Obama is still very, very clear, but Democrats cannot be complacent. Progressives cannot be complacent. The work is going to be hard, the climb is going to be steeper, and we need to get everybody out there.
Okay, so we'll go into some electoral vote scenarios in a second, but first, I've been following a number of different headlines, and we're seeing everything on the map as far as polls are concerned. I've seen polls saying Romney is leading Obama amongst women. I've seen polls saying it's a clear path for Obama if you look at the national polls. I've seen some that say the opposite. We're really seeing polling information all over the map. Is any of it even relevant at this point? And really, is a national poll even relevant, given that it may well come down to just a couple of states once again?
In a word, no. I mean, you know, if you go back to what I started with in this segment, there's still almost 4,000 hours of cable television to fill between now and the election. You're going to have 98 shows between now and then. You're going to talk about a lot of different things in that period of time. I think the key indicators to watch are if you're looking just strictly on the path to 270, which is how the election is ultimately decided. You've got a number of states out in the Southwest that I think will go heavily towards Obama. You've got a number of states in quote unquote the New South that will also go for Obama. And he has a very clear path, I think, even in states where even today I heard this morning, Morning Joe was cooing about the fact that Wisconsin is labeled a toss-up state. It's a toss-up state in his dreams. It's not a toss-up state at all.
Okay, so let's start, I guess, then. The first question is, what states that President Obama carried in 2008 are now in question or may go to Mitt Romney?
Well, in the article I wrote back on the 19th of December, I said Indiana was clearly at risk. However, they just chose a Tea Party crazy in the Senate race to replace Dick Lugar. Now, I'm not a big Dick Lugar fan, but Dick was able to reach across the aisle, and when it was necessary, he could find a way to compromise and find a way to, reach to the other side to get something done. This guy Murdoch, that has just been nominated there, is so crazy. He says compromise is when the Democrats agree with the Republicans. That's just absurd, and I think that's going to actually swing that state back, just because he's as crazy as Sharon Engel and the Tea Party lady in Delaware and the guy in Alaska that lost to a write-in candidacy to Lisa Murkowski. Crazy never works. And I think when you looked at the beginning of this electoral season, there was a chance for the Republicans to take the Senate back. Now that they have 2 or 3 of these crazies out there, people are going to wake up and they're going to say, wait a minute, this election is way too serious. And I think he's actually going to get Indiana again. North Carolina is a bit more of a question mark because of all of the voter suppression that's going on in that state, as well as Amendment 1. On the one hand, Amendment 1 is going to bring more Democratic voters out. But Obama has a lot of work still to do with the students from before. They're not as enthused as they were. They came out in record numbers in 2008. And I think across the board, that's going to become an issue for him. However, the energized women base, the energized Hispanic base are going to be extremely important. We've seen now that Joe Biden is one heck of a campaigner out there, and he has the ability to really go out there and connect with the middle class, and that's where this election is going to be decided.
Okay, so let's outline some electoral vote scenarios. So, for example, give me a plausible, if Obama holds everything he had except for what, but picks up one of these five. I mean, give us a sense of kind of what we're really looking at here as far as a swing.
I think realistically, he's got some problems with Indiana. He's got some problems with but I think those can be adjusted. He's got some problems with some of the northern Rust Belt states. But I think at the end of the day, they're gonna look at the character of Mitt Romney, and they're gonna say, does this guy really reflect who we are? Do we want a manager, or do we want a president, someone who's actually going to help us along the way? So I think the solid blue states that he took last time will still be there for him. I think he's got no chance of winning states like West Virginia, no chance of winning states like Oklahoma, Alabama, Mississippi, etc. However, that said, there's a number of headlines today showing how the anti-immigration laws that have been passed in several of these states are coming back now to haunt the Republicans. I think Georgia could very well be in play because of the urban population in and around Atlanta, and I think that's something that's going to help him. I think he's still got a very good chance to win Florida. Florida is a state, excuse me, that is having extraordinary difficulties with their governor. And I think all of these states that have elected these radical right-wing governors are going to be in play. So that means very good news for Ohio, very good news for Wisconsin, et cetera. I've seen polls that show, like, for example, in this recall coming up in a week or so, that Governor Walker may have a chance of hanging on to his seat. I think those are also misguided. I think they're really underestimating, to borrow George Bush's term, the rage that people feel in Wisconsin. So I think Wisconsin will be safely back in the Democratic corner. And I think a lot of these states that went so far right, where their legislatures are Republican and they're saying jobs, 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 yet all they're focused on are women's reproductive issues, women's reproductive issues, women's reproductive issues, are all going to be in play as we move forward into this.
Okay, last thing, I just want a number from you. If you have to predict it now, how many electoral votes does President Obama end up with?
I think he ends up with 400, very close to 400 when all is said and done.
All right, Worldview with Denis Campbell, editor-in-chief of UK Progressive Magazine. Great to talk to you as always, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.